Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now in this video, I've just got my laptop in front of me because I've got the list of notes, things I want to talk about in this video. The topic of this video is things I wish I knew before going to economic consulting. Now I have a few videos about economic consulting and I've touched on this a bit, but I feel like I need to go into more detail in case I've missed certain things. So yeah, let's just get into this video. Right, so things I wish I knew before taking my role as an economic consultant. So I took my role as an economic consultant. It was my first graduate role straight out of university. So I did an undergrad in economics and then a master's in finance and econometrics. And my first grad role was in 2019. So and I was working for an engineering company within the economics team. So yeah, so the first thing I would tell myself if I was back in 2019 applying for economic consulting jobs, this is what I'll tell myself: read the job description. Read the job description. Now I'm gonna say this many times because I'm gonna emphasize this because this is so important. Reading the job description, first of all, what type of company is it? What kind of industries do they operate in? So is it a financial services company? Is it an engineering company? Is it a construction company? Is it a healthcare company? So these things are important because you want to be able to work in a company where you can gain skills that will help you reach the kind of job you want in the future, and it will increase your salary, all that stuff, all that good stuff. Industry is really important. What does the role involve? Are you going to be doing a lot of financial modeling? So financial modeling is key for economic consulting. For a lot of economic consulting roles, if you can build financial models, that's great. If you can use statistical software like MATLAB, eViews, Python, some coding software as well, that is also amazing. So I would focus on jobs, like if going back in time, I would focus on jobs that provide me with these skills. Also try and find out, sometimes the job description doesn't tell you everything. So the next step, like, use the job description, but also use the interview to find out what type of projects are you going to be working on. What type of projects? Now, this is important. The projects you work on when you start your economic consulting career is going to determine, especially your first role, is going to determine what role you get next. If you're in a role whereby you're not working on projects that will elevate you, projects that you enjoy, and it will actually stifle your growth, because you're not going to be able to get that next role because you haven't got experience in certain projects. So my advice here is that be sure, ask as many questions in the interview. What kind of projects are you going to be working on? How long do these projects last for? How often do you get put on new projects? All those kind of things, because I've had the experience whereby I've been in my economic consulting role, I was in a projects whereby I wasn't really doing as much Excel modeling, which is what I enjoyed. I really wanted to build up my Excel skills, use all these lovely formulas, being able to build a cash flow model, financial modeling, and certain projects do not actually give you exposure to those things. Another thing I noticed with my role as an economic consultant is that I wasn't really put on roles where I was really like learning economic theory or applying economic theory, like theory of competition, oligopolies. I wasn't really applying that. Thinking back, there's only one project where there was a lot of economic theories, like all the theories I learned at university was applied in that project. But again, a lot of the projects, it wasn't that. You really need to understand what kind of projects are you going to be working on, and what skills do you gain from working on those projects. So these are important questions to ask. And now let's say you're in the role, what would I advise you to do? One thing I would say, even though I'm giving you all this advice about make sure you do all of these before accepting this economic consulting job, the fact that you've got an offer in economic consulting, it's amazing already. That's the first step. It's your first job. It's not the biggest deal in the world. As long as you got a foot in the door, that is all you need. All I would say is definitely build your Excel modeling skills. Like, majority of jobs, especially within economics where you're going to be working with statistics, you really need to build up your Excel skills. Now let me move on to my next point. Take notes in meetings. Oh my gosh, like I always take notes in meetings, but there's some meetings whereby I feel like maybe if I feel like I'm not really directly working in that project, or if I feel like you know, it's more so for the seniors, or the seniors are talking, or maybe if I don't understand what is going on, I may be like, oh, actually, let me not get involved. No, always take notes, because no one in this life, not only in economic consulting, in any grad job or any job in general, no one's gonna spoon feed you. And no one's gonna spoon feed you. No one's gonna say, oh, Madipa, did you get that? Did you understand that meeting? Did you understand that topic? No, people are just gonna ask you for things. People are gonna ask you, is that thing done? Have you built that model? Have you written that? So yeah, so you definitely need to be prepared for that. So take as many notes as you can, even if you don't understand it in the moment. It doesn't matter, you've written it down. You can then ask about it in the future. Ask as many questions as you want. Do not be shy. As I always say, there's no such thing as a stupid question. Always ask as many questions as you can, so you understand the task you've been given. One thing I also learned with economic consulting, well, in my experience, some projects you work on are actually a bit vague. There isn't like a clear process. Every project is different. So when I was in economics consulting, I was working within the transport industry. So if like a council wants to, I don't know, build a new road in an area, they need economists to come in and assess the benefits and the cost of building that new road, because they need funding from the government, and they need to justify that if the government spends money on their project, that it's worthwhile and the benefits outweigh the cost. So they come to us to assess this benefit cost ratio. Every project is different because the area is different, the economic climate in that area is different, the kind of objective that needs to be met, or the kind of the goals in that area are different. So every project is different. This could be a good and a bad thing. So it could be a good thing because obviously you learn a lot more, you get to strategize better, you know, you get to apply your creativity, which is a great thing as well. But it could be a negative thing as well if you feel like, if you're someone that's more into processes and you like following a list, you like things being kind of like the same, not exactly the same, but like there's a clear process to follow. If that's what you want, economics and consulting are like that, because every project is going to be very different. You know, sometimes you have to apply your creativity, you have to use assumptions, you have assumptions for the models you build regarding these different projects. How you assess the benefits and costs, you need assumptions built around that. And sometimes the area where you're working in within that project, there might not be enough information about that area. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. Like sometimes the projects are very, very different. Sometimes it can be vague. You know, the project manager or the person that is in charge of the project, they don't actually have the answers straight away. So there's a lot of asking for information here and there, trying to understand the best way to go about it, trying to understand the best way to assess benefits, you know, given the information little, or sometimes certain projects we have a lot of information to work with and sometimes we don't. So like certain projects, it can be vague, and you just need to have patience. Another thing that I didn't really know before graduating is that you really need to network. Networking is so important, especially within economic consulting, because it affects what kind of projects you get to work on. And I did find that, like I mentioned before, I love to work on projects where there's a lot of financial modeling involved, a lot of Excel work, you know, building cash flow models, very analytical. That's the kind of things I like. And to work on projects like that, I had to talk to sometimes, because then I was actually working in the Birmingham office, and I had a lot of people from London. The London office is where they did a lot of the econometrics things and a lot of financial modeling. So I had to network with people from those offices. And yeah, it can be quite tricky. Sometimes the projects you want, you don't actually get. You need to kind of fight for it. Because I remember once my line manager said to me that you know, you need to kind of sell yourself. You need to kind of find work, even though I'm already in a job. And my idea was that if I don't have work to do, my line manager's job to find me work to do. But in the world of consulting, economic consulting, you have to put yourself out there and find these projects, to work on, by talking to people, creating links. Because there were people who, I don't know if were from the Birmingham office, but they were working on projects where the project managers were from London, or the rest of the team were from London, for example. So yeah, networking, you need to be a people's person. You need to network, you need to talk to people, you need to show your enthusiasm for certain projects, so people know that when there's like certain projects that are happening, they can, sometimes I'm nominated because you know, they know what I like, and they think, oh, I'll be a great fit. And even in within economic consulting, we had our own CV. So you know how you have your standard CV when you apply for the job, but within that job, we also had to build our own CV to let people know in the company know the different projects we've worked on. So that already tells you that it's you're selling yourself. So even while you're in the company, you need to be building your CV, let people know what projects you've worked on, so they can put you on other projects that in the future. Another thing, again, this is not only for economic consulting but any job, as you're working, detail everything you're learning. So when you're on a project, detail everything you're learning on that project, everything you're doing, everything you come across, you put it down there, because again, this will help you in the future when you're when they want to consider you for other projects. They will be able to see everything you've done. It's easy to forget certain things you've done, and sometimes in the moment you might not even know that you're the valuable skills you're gaining or the valuable knowledge you're gaining. So that's why it's important for you to document everything. Even up until now, I'm not an economic consultant anymore. I work within financial services and within treasury. Everything I'm doing, everything I come across, every task I do, I document everything, because this is literally your selling point. This is what's going to get you the salary increase. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when you're applying for jobs, just telling them this is what I can do, and you just got everything down there, rather than leaving a job and then you just have to sit down and think, okay, what are the things I've done in this job, and then you can't discuss in interviews because you can't remember everything. So you need to document everything as you go. Another thing you need to be prepared for within economic consulting is there's going to be a lot of mundane tasks, and there's going to be some downtime. So within economic consulting, there were times where I didn't have any work to do, and yeah, that is not nice. Sometimes they would just put you on a random task. Like I remember one of the tasks I had to do, edit people's CVs and tailor their CVs to specific projects that they've been put forward for, and yeah, that wasn't really fun. Yeah, so there is some downtime. Is possible for you to not have much to do for 2 weeks, and they just put you on random tasks. Like you can be helping helping out with CVs 1 week, another week you can be tasked to review someone's work. So that's not really fun, but you just need to be prepared for it. These are things that happen. So overall, I just think you need to take an active role in your career. If there's projects you want to work on, let your manager, let your line manager know, let people know. You need to be bold. And again, if you're working in a job and it's not for you, and you really believe that actually staying in this company, I'm not getting what I want to get, I'm not getting the skills I want, I'm not working on projects I find interesting, then you need to take an active role in your career and search for all these other jobs that will give you what you're looking for. So you need to really take an active role in your career. Hi guys, sorry, there was another point that I felt like is important to make. So another thing that I would consider before going into picking any role within economic consulting is try to understand what is involved in that role. What other things, apart from the actual day-to-day duties, what other obligations do you have to fulfill? So in my experience, when I worked as an economic consultant, I had to do something called the GDP. So I think that was the if I remember, that was the graduate development program. Now this program actually took a bit of my time, in that there was a series of questions. I can't remember, maybe about 40 questions, but there were essay-like questions you had to answer throughout over the 2 years. I think the graduate program was 2 years, so you had to answer all those questions completed within 2 years. Now the questions that they asked, were more so relevant to the company. So what you had to, so you wouldn't have been able to move on or be promoted unless you had completed that graduate development program. And personally, I didn't find the graduate development program useful, only because it didn't provide me with like real skills. Maybe it made me more knowledgeable about different areas of the business in terms of specifically the company, but it wasn't really useful to my day-to-day role, and it didn't provide me with any hard skills in moving on. Like it didn't provide me like financial modeling skills. It didn't provide me with like coding skills, or give me knowledge on important economic topics or projects management skills. It wasn't really, it was kind of like a checklist to just make sure that you've covered certain areas to then be eligible to be promoted to a consultant, and then a senior consultant, and so on and so forth. So that would be something I would tell you to, keep an eye out, ask questions. Like it can actually take quite a bit of your time. Again, like the only thing I would do that would take my time, it has to be relevant. So if I'm studying for examinations, maybe the ACCA, CFA, those things are worth those things are worth it. But the graduate development program, I didn't feel was worth my time. Thank goodness I left before I needed to complete it, so I didn't end up actually completing it because I had moved on to a different role. So these are questions you definitely do need to ask. It might be that the role you get into, there might be other obligations. And also something else is that some companies want you to do a qualification when you start the role as well. That comes with the role, so they might want you to do a CFA or ACCA and so forth, and that is absolutely fine. Those are great qualifications, but again, if that's not what you're interested in, or you're not too sure whether that's what because it is a big commitment, you're not too sure that you want to commit to that, then please just make sure you're aware. So don't go into a role with all these with all these obligations and all of that. So yeah, these are things that I would just look out for. Ask as many questions. They don't put everything in a job description, that's for sure. Sometimes they make the job description sound greater than the role actually is. So yeah, just beware to ask a lot of questions. But I will end it here. Any economic consultant role you secure, good, great, amazing, because you're learning something, you're learning a skill, you're gaining experience that's going to help you get an even better role. Also, another thing you need to be aware of, when let's say you secure an economic consulting role within, I don't know, maybe the healthcare industry. Now, personally, if you don't want to be in the healthcare industry, you don't see yourself in the healthcare industry for many years or in the future, I personally wouldn't stay in that role for too long. I would more so because the danger with that is that once there's positive and there's some negative with that. So if you kind of put yourself in a position where you're working as an economic consultant for a specific industry, that is also good in terms of there'll be other roles where they're looking for people with specific skills that are related to the healthcare industry, and so you're able to demand a higher salary. And especially if that's the industry you're happy working with, that's amazing. But if it's not an industry you feel like you want to remain in, and you want to go into the big four, you want to go into financial services, I don't know, other areas, it might be that you need to be aware of this. Make sure that the skills you're gaining within, let's say, the healthcare industry is relevant to the other industries within economic consulting that you want to go into. So just be aware of that. Because you don't want to stay in a company too long where you're not gaining the skills you need to move on to, let's say, an economic consultant role within the financial services industry. That is a real danger there. It's very easy for people to become too relaxed in their role, and then they actually find out that actually what real skills have I actually learned and can take with me, and to bargain for a higher salary for a potential employer. So those are things that I would definitely consider. And that's the end of my video. I really hope you found this useful. Please comment down below any kind of content you want to see or any questions you may have, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.